What's up, my comic comrades? Today we continue our Black Widow themed episodes by breaking down the history of Taskmaster. He's the main villain for the Black Widow solo movie and has been a fan favorite character for comic book readers for a long time now. So to finally see him get some much deserved recognition on the big screen is quite glorious. With that said, let's see what Taskmaster is all about in the good old comic books. Taskmaster first appeared in the Avengers issue 195 in May of 1980. He was created by David Michelini and George Perez. Taskmaster is sort of a universal villain in the sense that when you think of him, you don't automatically associate him with a specific hero. Like you associate Joker with Batman, Red Skull with Captain America, Abomination with the Hulk, and so on and so forth. Instead, he served as an enemy for a ton of Marvel heroes, fighting the likes of Captain America, Spider-Man, and even Ant-Man, to name a few. In fact, he's such a skilled assassin and mercenary that he's consistently being hired by criminal organizations to train their armies and soldiers. Essentially, every villain wishes they were as good as this guy, so much so, they hire him to train their people to be as good as him. Pretty crazy stuff. But now let's take a look at his comic book origin. The man that would become Taskmaster is Tony Masters. We find out that as a kid, he was born with the ability to mimic the movements of others after only briefly observing them. By the time he was 8 years old, he started to hone in on this skill and discover his photographic reflexes even more, to the point where he could immediately copy other people's skills. And I'm talking about any movement, like learning how to dive in a swimming pool off a high dive after watching someone perform it on TV, and duplicating the techniques and skills from some of the NBA's best players, and even learning how to twirl a lasso in the air just by watching cowboys on the television. Once much older, Tony became an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. While on a mission with them, Tony found an old scientist who was dying after being shot in the chest. Before the scientist died, however, he gave Tony a syringe that contained an experimental Nazi version of the super soldier serum. If he injected himself with it, it would enhance his already amazing photographic reflexes, but also give him the ability to assimilate knowledge instantly. So naturally, Tony was like, all right, I'm down for being a super soldier that can mimic anyone, and injects himself with the syringe. This also gave him the ability to retain knowledge after reading something just once. Now, while the super soldier serum did give him superpowers, the retaining knowledge portion didn't work out so well. In fact, it was quite the opposite. Instead of giving him the ability to absorb all knowledge he read or saw, it gave him a degree of amnesia, and pretty much erased his memory, as he forgot who his wife was, who just so happened to be his field agent partner. But it didn't stop there. He forgot his entire S.H.I.E.L.D. history. Having a form of amnesia, Tony created an alter ego called Taskmaster, where he worked as a mercenary for criminal organizations. But with that said, he also subsequently still works for S.H.I.E.L.D. He was essentially the best double agent there was. He then started committing a bunch of successful crimes, and then used his profits to start academies where he trained aspiring supervillains, with Crossbones being one of them. Now, as the mercenary Taskmaster, he would come into conflict with the likes of Captain America, Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Ant-Man, and the rest is history. But now it's time to take a look at some of Taskmaster's story arcs. Like I said earlier, Taskmaster first appeared in the Avengers 195, but he wouldn't get his own 4-issue limited series until 2002, simply titled Taskmaster. In said series, Taskmaster is hired by one of Iron Man's friends/enemies, Sunset Bane. She approaches Taskmaster saying Stark Industries is performing some research at one of its labs that I wish to see halted. Would you be able to facilitate this? He answers yes, but Stark Enterprises is rather high profile, not to mention a well-guarded establishment. A contract like that would carry a premium price, say $1 million up front, $1 million upon completion. And a why? Miss Bane asks, a why? Taskmaster replies, a why am I screwing with Stark Enterprises? She says, oh, you don't trust me? He then tells her, that's my price. I'm more comfortable when I have a feel for my employer's intentions. She then says, I understand. Very well, it's not a secret that Tony and I have always enjoyed a little friendly competition. Recent reports from some of my more, shall we say, well-placed sources indicate that Stark is developing a new semiconductor technology generation beyond the most current tech available. He stands to make yet another fortune and put me out of business in one stroke. Everyone in the field has their eyes on this much anticipated product, as if my company's impending doom at the hands of this grandstanding playboy wasn't enough. At this moment, my intentions are divided. Tell me, Taskmaster, are you familiar with the Chinese Triad? Well, the Triad's gang syndicates have existed for years. They have been primarily limited to Asian communities, steering clear of our territory. However, as the Triad's power has escalated over the years, so has their confidence. There was even a time when I employed some of their specialists working on some of my more delicate security needs. While our arrangement was mutually beneficial for a time, the Triads watched for the slightest signs of weakness, waiting for the target they needed. They did not show me the proper respect and arrogantly set their legitimate business fronts to compete directly with my own. I know there's a plan in place for them to acquire Stark's technology. After you sabotage the project, however, they will never get what they want. She then asks Taskmaster, "Is that a sufficient why?" He replies, "Quite." And while they shake hands, she says, "Good. My assistant, Mr. Isley, will have your million brought to you in cash, along with the data you will need to complete the assignment." He then says, "Pleasure doing business with you." This leads Taskmaster to pull off corporate sabotage on Stark Industries or Enterprises, which of course brings him into direct contact with Tony Stark, where he even fights Iron Man in the fighting style of Captain America. Issue 4 of this series is also where we get a glimpse of Taskmaster's childhood that I mentioned earlier, seeing him develop his incredible mimicking abilities. Then in 2010, Taskmaster got another 4-issue miniseries. At this point in time, Taskmaster has trained countless villains for almost every terrorist organization and criminal cartel in the Marvel Universe. But someone started a rumor that he became a traitor and is now working with Steve Rogers, aka Captain America. So of course, once this rumor starts going around, a $1 billion bounty gets put on his head, which means every costume mercenary, assassin, and villain group pretty much is going after him. We're talking Hydra, Ultimatum, the Sons of the Serpent. Again, almost every villain and organization in the Marvel Universe is like, yo, this guy's gotta die. We're talking about $1 billion for Taskmaster's head. All I'm saying is, if I had the skills, I'd be tempted to take off his head. So the series deals with Taskmaster fighting hordes of his past psychopathic students. Everyone he's trained now thinks he's a traitor and is out to kill him. So while fighting them off, he simultaneously is trying to figure out who framed him. But this also means he has to figure out who he is, because remember, like I said earlier, he has amnesia and has forgotten all of his past. Which is kind of ironic that he has photographic reflexes, but his memory sucks. At one point in time, Taskmaster worked for Agency X, a group of mercenaries which included several other mercenaries in the Marvel Universe, such as Deadpool. It was around this time he was sent on a mission to kill Moon Knight, but he was given bad information, which caused him to fail the mission. That mixed with the fact that Moon Knight scared Taskmaster when he appeared to be immune to pain. So Moon Knight defeated Taskmaster, but left him alive. After this, Deadpool would free Taskmaster from his imprisonment to have a fight with him while potential mercenary contractors watch on. By the end, Deadpool comes out victorious. Deadpool then thanks Taskmaster for letting him win, but Taskmaster tells Deadpool, "I didn't let you win. The truth is, you're that good. You've always been that way," which won't get you a cup of coffee until you figure out how to be a professional. So if you ever wondered who the better mercenary was, Deadpool or Taskmaster, now you know. Skipping some stuff here and there, we have Finesse. She also has photographic reflexes just like Taskmaster, and he admits that while he can't be certain, he's more than likely Finesse's father, which she also suspects. Suspecting this might be his daughter, he tells her the way his abilities work is that every time he picks up a new technique, it pushes non-combat oriented memories out of his mind forever. So taking on new fighting techniques means it pushes non-combat related memories out of his brain. Essentially, the more he mimics people, the more of his personal life he forgets. Now let's jump to the most recent Taskmaster series from 2020. In this series, Taskmaster has murdered Maria Hill of S.H.I.E.L.D. Or at least that's what the entire Marvel Universe thinks. Because of this, now the greatest spies are tracking Taskmaster down and won't stop until he's dead. Trying to clear his name, Taskmaster sets out on a globe-spanning adventure. It's another espionage story that takes Taskmaster around the world where he's trying to figure out who set him up. And along the way, he even ends up in Wakanda, and Okoye's there. Pretty cool. Now with that said, we're well aware we didn't cover every single Taskmaster story arc there is. There's a bunch of story arcs with him with Deadpool, a bunch with him in the Avengers in his early days. There's just too much to cover. We just wanted to give you a good overview of some of his more significant story arcs and or our favorite ones. With that said, on to powers and abilities. Taskmaster's main ability is what he calls photographic reflexes, which means after he sees someone perform an action, he can copy it perfectly. He often uses this ability to copy the fighting styles and skills of several of the heroes and villains in the Marvel Universe. He even mixes these fighting styles up, turning them into his own fighting style. To give you a short list of people whose skills and fighting styles he's copied, you have Deadpool, Hulk, Iron Fist, the Punisher, Spider-Man, Captain America, Black Knight, Daredevil, Scarlet Witch, Thor, and the list goes on. But here's the kicker. In a crossover event between DC and Marvel, he copied and learned the skills of Batman. With that said, it isn't known if he retained Batman's fighting styles in the Marvel Universe. I'm gonna assume he did it. With his amazing mimic abilities, he can only mimic people's skills to the extent that his body will allow him to. Let me give you an example so you know what I mean. Taskmaster can copy the way Daredevil moves to avoid danger, but he can't copy his radar. He could also copy the way Spider-Man fights, but not his super strength. Once more, he can copy Deadpool's fighting style, but he can't mimic his awesome healing factor. All I really need to say is he can copy the fighting style and a way a person moves, but he can't mimic their superhuman abilities. In the same vein, his copying skills don't give him the understanding of how to use said skills properly. For example, he could watch someone play an extremely difficult piano piece and would be able to mimic it perfectly, but wouldn't be able to read the sheet music. Something that's kind of funny is Taskmaster once said he finds Moon Knight's fighting style extremely annoying because Moon Knight would rather take a punch than avoid it, because Moon Knight. Taskmaster can also mimic someone's voice almost perfectly with only a few hours of practice. Being the mercenary and assassin he is, he uses this ability to break voice-activated locks. Then we have weapons and equipment. Taskmaster uses a variety of weapons to mimic different fighting styles. So he carries a sword, shield, billy clubs, and even a bow and arrow. That way he can mimic people like Captain America, Black Knight, Daredevil, and Hawkeye. With all that said though, even though he's not the #1 mercenary in the Marvel Universe, he is easily someone you do not want to find yourself in a fight with. As for good Taskmaster reading recommendations, check out the 2002 Taskmaster miniseries, the 2010 Taskmaster miniseries, Taskmaster: The Right Price, Taskmaster: Anything You Can Do, and the brand new 2020 Taskmaster series. That should be enough to get you all started. And that's going to bring today's episode of Variant to a close, but if you like today's video, be sure to check out this one right here. And if you like all of our videos, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the channel grow. But other than that, I'll see you guys next time when I talk about all things comics.